when tenderness turns into cruelty, and the home becomes a grave for safety. Only shock and disgrace remain, and a hand made to nurture turned into cruelty. This is the truth of the worst father in the world. In a quiet neighborhood of the neighborhoods of Zarqa Governorate, there stood a house that looked ordinary to the eye. The laughter of children echoed between its walls, innocent sounds that did not raise suspicion. But behind this laughter, there was hiding a monster lurking without heart and without mercy, planting terror instead of safety, and turning every corner in the house into a terrifying trap, and every step could turn into a moment of unforgettable horror. The calm was a lie, and the air heard between the walls was loaded with a hidden threat that the children did not yet know its meaning. In the year 1991, the girl Badia was born. In this cursed house, she lived her simple childhood, dreaming of an ordinary life like any girl. Her father worked as a carpenter, and he had his respected position among people. Everyone saw him as a righteous man, while inside him there was hiding a human monster. The years passed, and Badia grew, and the features of femininity began to appear on her while she did not exceed 15. But she sometimes felt coldness in the looks, awe she did not understand. Her heart trembled whenever her father approached her without a clear reason. At the beginning, Badia did not notice anything strange in the behavior of her father. But as days passed, his looks changed. They were no longer the looks of a father to his daughter, but the looks of a wolf to its prey. He began to get closer to her at different times. Some days he touched her cheek with an annoying gentleness that made her heart jump in her chest. And some days he turned off the light to make her feel afraid, moving with fear between rooms, every movement monitored, every step surrounded with terror. Then the tension turned into full physical assaults. Badia lost her innocence at the hands of the one who was supposed to be the source of safety, while she moved in the house like a ghost, trying to breathe silently, hearing his heavy breaths and fearing every sound of rustling, every creak of doors. Every step of him at night was warning of a hell that was about to approach her. Badia collapsed, but after a bitter inner struggle, she gathered her courage and told her mother what her father was doing with her. She said to her mother that he was behaving with her as if she were his wife and not his child. But the real shock was not in the act only, but in the response of the mother. The mother said with trembling fear,
"Be silent. We are weak. We cannot endure his anger."
The feeling of betrayal left her, her feeling of cold and fear creeping into her bones, a feeling that the whole world betrayed her. And from that moment, the two of them, the daughter and the mother, lived in suffocating silence. Silence that kills more than the act itself. Every movement in the house carried silent terror. Every room whispered with fear. Every shadow carried a threat. Five whole years in which childhood turned into a prison. A father violating the body of his daughter whenever he wished, and a helpless mother fearing confrontation, and Badia surrounded by fear and tears. Every night she moved in the house with fear, trying not to make any sound. every corner becoming a possible trap, every shadow reminding her that the monster was near. Every moment in it was a mixture of panic and inner horror, her mind imagining every possible scenario and every silence increasing her tension. At the beginning of the year 2010, signs of pregnancy began to appear on her body. The secret could no longer be hidden. The mother confronted the father, but instead of stopping, he raged and threatened her, and decided to get rid of the fetus to erase the trace of his crime. He began to beat Badia severely, focusing on her stomach to drop the pregnancy, but the fetus remained alive. Badia collapsed. She felt that every part of her body was collapsing with her, and she tried to commit suicide by drinking pesticide, but her mother saved her at the last moment to continue the journey toward a more horrible hell, where every room turned into a stage of horror. Every movement became a test of survival. Every moment of tension made her heart sway between fear and despair. The father sat searching on the internet for methods of surgical abortion. He wrote down the steps of the procedure and went to a pharmacy to buy medical tools. And on a dark night, he ordered his wife to go out with the children to her father's house, leaving Badia alone with him. The father began giving her sleeping pills, then dragged her thin body to the kitchen. He tied her feet with a rope, sprayed an anesthetic substance on her stomach, and held a scalpel. Every movement was slow, complete silence, and terror tearing the air around her. Badia felt fear seeping into every cell of her eyes searching for any imaginary refuge, and every heartbeat was like the sound of a hammer in the silence of the night. Every inhale and exhale becoming more difficult with every moment of waiting. He cut the belly of his daughter and took out the fetus that did not exceed the 5th month, put it in a garbage bag and threw it aside, then held an ordinary needle and thread and sewed the wound as if he were repairing a torn garment, while her mind was screaming inside, her soul trembling in absolute silence. But the body of Badia could not endure, and she began to bleed heavily, and her blood covered the ground. Every drop of blood was a sign of the horror she lived. The father's attempts to stop the bleeding with ground coffee failed, and the girl was breathing her last breaths. Her screams muffled, her movements filled with deadly terror. Her feeling of complete helplessness to survive was weighing down her heart and her mind at the same time. Every second was like a whole lifetime of horror. When the father realized what had happened, he called his wife to seek her help. The mother entered the kitchen to find her daughter a lifeless body, her belly torn, and her blood covering every corner. She screamed a scream that pierced the silence of the neighborhood, and all her suppressed fear came out at once. The neighbors gathered quickly. One of them called the police. There was no room for escape anymore, and when the police came immediately, they arrested the father, while the mother's heart was being torn by the feeling of guilt and panic, a feeling that she lived with the monster without the ability to protect her child. In the investigations, the mother confessed everything that happened from the beginning. The father confessed to all his horrible acts, and the medical report revealed the cause of death: internal bleeding and rupture of the uterus, and the fetus was in the 5th month. The father was sentenced to death, and before the days of executing the sentence, he was struck with stomach cancer, and he lived painful days until he died in prison, his mind full of regret for his actions. while Badia's soul was no longer there to feel anything. Did justice delay? The father died. But what about Badia? What about the stolen years of childhood? The screams that no one heard? The horror was not only in the scalpel nor in the blood, but in the silence of the mother, in the cowardice of the family, and in a society that ignored her screams. The story of Badia is not just a crime, it is a curse, a mark of shame on the forehead of humanity. A scream saying, when safety turns into a source of horror, who protects the victim? Children are the weakest, and silence over evil allows it to grow until it devours all innocence. And in the end, nothing remains but a silent corpse and a buried scream that no one hears. Thank you for following, and don't forget to subscribe, activate the bell, and share your opinions.